What up, nerds? Welcome back to The Nerdy Narrative. My name is Leslie Smith, and today on the channel, I'm going to be sharing my reading experience of a book that I am sure everyone who reads in this genre blend has already read. I'm the last one to the table because I felt this book was overhyped, but also because this is not a genre I typically read in. But I am so glad that I picked this one up because I absolutely loved it. And that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It's the first book in a new series. I've already picked up the second book, Iron Flame. The third book, I believe, comes out in January. I will have that pre-ordered. I had so much fun reading this book. I have seen so much love for this book. I feel like I have seen equal amount of negative or rant reviews about it. To be very honest with you, it's the rant reviews from the reviewers that I follow. That's what had me putting this book on my want to read in the first place, because I wanted to see why all of these people disliked this book so much. The day that I started this book was the day that I became obsessed with this book. My personal experience with this one was I loved it. I am so glad that I was able to get my hands on the audiobook from my library, because when I started it, I could not put it down. If I couldn't sit down to physically read it, I was suffering through the audiobook. Yes, you did hear me say suffering through the audiobook. The audiobook narrator was Rebecca Solar, and I did not like her narration at all. This is one I would absolutely recommend reading physically, unless you just can't stop reading it and you have to actually be an adult and do things so the audiobook can come in clutch so you can keep going forward in the story. I will say this for the narrator though. During certain scenes, she matched the pacing of what was happening with her narration, and she was able to infuse it with the emotion that I felt matched the intensity of the situation of what was happening in the book. So there is that one exception, but just her tone, I did not like at all. We were just not a good match for each other. Fourth Wing is the story of Violet Sorrengail. She is the daughter of General Sorrengail, and she had always been trained that once she became of age, she would enter into the scribe quadrant. She's the youngest of the Sorrengail children, and her mother had fallen ill with a terrible fever when she was pregnant with Violet, and as a result, Violet was born very small, very frail, and so it was very easy for Violet to decide she was going to follow in her father's footsteps and be a scribe. She's also very, very intelligent. Unfortunately for Violet, 6 months before she reaches the age of where she can enter into the scribe quadrant, her mother demanded that she enter the writer quadrant. Fourth Wing is Violet's story as she enters into the writer's quadrant to attempt to become a dragon writer. It's all about her first year in this school, which you have to complete a trial, a test to even get in. They don't even make you a cadet and enter you onto the books until you survive just getting into the quadrant. This war college, this environment, this setting, that's what caught my immediate attention, had me turning those pages flying to see what was going to be the next challenge. Every day, these writers would get up and know they may not live to make it to the end of the day. They were just as much a danger to each other as were the challenges and the tests that they endured this first year of school. Now, knowing this, the back of the book tells you that once they go into this war college, everyone has an agenda, and the only two ways that you can leave this war college is to graduate or die. I knew this going in. I was telling myself, don't get attached to anybody, because likely there's going to be a lot of people that are going to die. I love that constant danger sort of thing. Violet did make some friends. She did have some allies, and they would watch each other's back, help each other. I love that camaraderie. It's very reminiscent to that of people who served in the armed forces. I actually thought I was going to love the dragons the most, but over the course of the book, as I'm learning more about these kids and they're learning more about each other, and as they're helping each other, saving each other's lives, it was hard not to root for them. It was hard not to care. Don't get me wrong though, the dragons were absolutely magnificent. I love learning about their history. I love that they had their own personalities and they were the ones that chose their writers. And even though these kids graduated or made it to the end of the first year, the dragons still retained the choice of whether or not they would bond a writer. They would choose their writer, and there were some, if they didn't like the writer for some reason, they could absolutely be within their right to kill the writer for whatever it was that they didn't like about that writer. Again, just that constant danger. I was addicted to that rush it was giving me. I really enjoyed how Rebecca Yarros crafted the magic system in this book. Once someone had been chosen by a dragon to become its writer, the dragon would then channel its magic through the bond to their writer. The dragon just has magic. The person, who you were at your core, that was what was the determining factor in how the dragon's magic manifested through you. These abilities could manifest in so many different ways, and that was another challenge. They had to learn how to use this magic or it would kill them. The adrenaline rush just never stopped with this book. That's why the setting, this war college, was my favorite, because it was just rush after rush after rush. Fourth Wing is heavily marketed as a fantasy romance or a romantasy novel, so I feel like I should also give my opinion on what I thought about the romance story in this book. And I will say I feel like it was a secondary plot. It was not the main plot of this story, but there is a little romance going on, and I liked it. I liked it just fine. I didn't think it was over the top. I don't think it was blown out of proportion. It felt like a romance between two young people, 20 and 23, who literally may not live to see the end of the day. So it makes sense that these kids would fall in love quickly, have whirlwind romances. While we're talking about the romance aspect of Fourth Wing, I also have to say I'm really confused by a lot of the rant reviews I've seen. In the title, it says horny dragons, or they'll have a snippet of their review talking about horny dragons. And I am so confused why something that happened one time in the book, off the page, was maybe 2 pages in length and wasn't even the focus of the scene. Why did everybody choose to make a rant review talking about that? I mean, where do y'all think the baby dragons came from? It was such a small part of the book, I would have forgotten. That would have been such a minute detail that meant nothing. It would not have stayed with me after I finished this book. So that's going to do it for me today. That's my reading experience about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Absolutely loved it. Will be continuing the series. Hopefully very soon I will get to read Iron Flame, and I will be back with another non-spoiler review to let you know, was she able to keep the momentum going? Did she continue building on the world and magic system? All of that fun stuff. So I hope you enjoyed hearing about the first book. If you want to catch the review about the second book, make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.